Instead of having an overly complex intro trying to bait you into sticking around in this video for the first 30 seconds so that my average view duration goes up, I'm going to get right to the point. Today, I'm talking to you, beautiful audience of mine, about my 3 favorite webcams going into 2025. If you are a person who is considering getting started as a streamer on Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Kick, X, whatever other freaking platform is out there, if you're looking to get started and you want a tiny little plastic box that has a lens to show off that beautiful face of yours, I've got 3 that are under $200 that are absolutely amazing. And I'm not gonna make you wait the whole video to tell you what they are. I'm gonna tell you right the fuck now. Okay, number 1, in no particular order, the Elgato Facecam Mark II. Number 2, the Obsbot Me 2. And number 3, can I balance them? I sure can. The Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite. Let's fucking go. Oh God. So let's go ahead and start with the cheaper of the 3. This is the Obsbot Me 2. It is $130 plus tax because Uncle Sam's got to get his cut. And ironically enough, although this is the Me 2 and this is the Tiny 2 Lite, I feel like the names kind of got crisscrossed somewhere in the process because the Me 2 is tiny compared to the Tiny 2 Lite, so it doesn't really make sense. But that's neither here nor there. For 130 bucks, you're going to get a really good looking, well-built camera. This is a very, very small camera. I love how tiny it is. It's not obtrusive when it comes to the real estate that you have for your setup. It looks elegant, it looks sleek, and it doesn't feel like cheap plastic. Again, for 130 bucks. But not only that, when you're streaming, you're able to capture an output at 1080p 60 and 4K 30. And for $130, that is insane. So let's take a look at the camera in action. This is the Obsbot Me 2. Again, this is a $130 webcam. What you're looking at right now, I like to do this a whole lot if you can't already tell. What you're looking at right now is the Obsbot Me 2 running at 4K 30 frames a second. Of course, because I'm uploading this into YouTube at 1080, you're only going to see this at 1080 60, which probably doesn't really make sense, but I use it in 4K when I use the camera at all, because again, I tend to rotate all of my gear every week or so. All right. So for 130 bucks, this is the quality of the image that you get right out of the box. And if you're curious, you can do a whole lot of other things with it too. I mean, for starters, I have a LUT that I've made for myself. So if I turn the LUT on in OBS, this is the result that we get now. I do kind of like this and I kind of don't. It just depends on the webcam. But we're going to turn it off because I want you to see what the camera looks like for you when you buy it, because you don't have the same LUT that I do, because I made this on my own for myself. And I'm stingy with the LUTs. All right. Now, not only that, but if you also download, which I highly recommend you do, if you also download the Obsbot Command Center, which is their app, you're able to do a whole lot more with this camera. Ta-da! Okay, so under console over here, you're able to zoom in, just, zoom in to your heart's content. We're going to go in a little bit there. And then this little wheel right here, you can move around. Go bring it around town. Any SpongeBob fans out there, okay? You can do all that, all right? You can just do presets, like we can do a wide setting, we can do a super narrow setting, we can even do a medium setting, which I think is a pretty good balance. We're gonna we're gonna go ahead and move it up a little bit there, just so I'm always in frame. I like to be like full in frame, if that makes any sense. But not only can we do that, we can also go ahead and do a whole lot of adjusting. We are able to use HDR. I prefer not, but hey, whatever floats your boat is fine. You can do autofocus. This is an autofocus webcam. So you have face recognition, like facial autofocus, and you have global autofocus. Of course, I stick with face because that ends up working just fine. And while we're here, I also want to highlight how great of a job this webcam does at focus hunting. Bomb. Really freaking fast. And it doesn't struggle at finding me at all. I love this webcam, dude. I really freaking do. You're able to manually adjust things like your exposure, your white balance, and of course, other parts of your image, such as your contrast, saturation, yada, 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 yada. If you're feeling really fancy, they have a whole bunch of filters that you can play around with. Boom, right here, see? All right, we can even turn bokeh on. Can we do that right now? I'm gonna turn it on. Let's see if it does anything here. Doesn't really do much, but let's go to advanced. Hey, look at that. For a webcam that cost $130, I'm going to tell you, this is some of the best bokeh I've seen on a webcam for $130. So yeah, this is the Obsbot Me 2, 130 bucks. Absolutely amazing webcam. Let's move on to the next one. Now for webcam number 2, coming in at $159, we've got the Elgato Facecam Mark II. And although this is not as elegant as something like the Meet 2, for example, it's not as small as the Meet 2. It takes up a lot more space horizontally compared to the Meet 2. I gotta tell you, this is a really damn good webcam. It's capable of capturing and outputting a signal at 1080p 60. It cannot do 4K. All right, so for $30 more, you lose the ability to put out 4K, but like the Meet 2, it can also do HDR recording. So I guess we just need to see this thing in action. Let's check it out. So this is the Facecam Mark II by Elgato. This is what the image quality will look like for you right out of the box. Okay, now what might be a big differentiator here is the fact that I do have several lights around me going on. So key thing here for any webcam or any camera for that matter, make sure you have solid lighting. You don't have to go out there and spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on lighting, but just make sure you have solid lighting, because solid lighting can make or break your camera image quality as far as what is out there on video. All right, so very few adjustments done here on the Camera Hub software. This is what it looks like. If I wanted to slap on a LUT, which I specifically made a LUT for this webcam, it will look a little like this. Bam. All right, now this looks a little darker. That's because right now I don't have my lights set up for how I normally do when I stream. But overall, I like this a little more because, again, I kind of like a little bit more darkness going on in my shot. But that's just me. It's my personal preference. Let's go ahead and turn it back off. All right, cool. I'm trying to be fancy with the snapping of the finger, which you should all know that this does nothing. I'm clicking the mouse to turn things off and on. Anyways, much like Obsbot and the Obsbot Control Center, Elgato has the Elgato Camera Hub, which you can go ahead and check out now. In the Camera Hub application, we're able to see that we've got the Mark II camera selected. We can see that we're outputting at 1080p 60 and that the video format is MJPEG. All right, quick side note here. If you buy the Elgato Facecam Mark II and you connect it to your computer and you crank on OBS and you find that the video quality you're getting doesn't necessarily match your expectations, please click on the camera source, go to properties, and manually enter the resolution. Don't let it do automatic or don't let it do device default or any of that. You have to select 1080p for the resolution and you have to select 60 FPS for the frame rate of the image. Otherwise, it's gonna default to like 420p or maybe even 720p. You're welcome. Besides that, we can also see here that we have the ability to zoom in and out. So if I want to grab the slider and just go ahead and do woo, all this right here, we can do that. I don't personally like messing with sliders because they have a very convenient feature here where we're allowed to set up presets. So A is just the normal view of the camera. B, I zoomed it in just a little bit more. C, now we're getting really close and personal. D, you're going to be able to tell that I've had a lot of coffee today. I don't think you want to be this close to me. So let's go ahead and back it up a little bit. Okay, cool. Now, if you notice right here, we got a little blue square. We can click and hold it and move the frame around. Now, the camera itself isn't moving. The lens itself isn't moving. This is all just digitally done. So obviously, if you go in way too close, you're going to be able to tell that it looks a little grainy and fuzzy. Of course, just like the Obsbot Control Center, we can adjust things like contrast, saturation, and sharpness. We can do automatic exposure, manual exposure, white balance, automatic or manual, and do some processing and some noise reduction. We also have effects. Click over here on the tab, and we have the ability to do background blur. But because I'm using it right now in OBS, it's not gonna actually show it in real time. So that's kind of weird. You have to close OBS out, open up Camera Hub to have the feed go into the Camera Hub application, and then do all of your adjusting and manipulation there, and then crank OBS back on after turning Camera Hub off. It's weird. It's weird that it does that. But yeah, this is it. This is the Elgato Facecam Mark II, 130 bucks, 1080p 60, capture in standard or high dynamic range. I think it does a fantastic job of getting really good coloring in the image, but I also don't think that it has the cleanest or the sharpest looking video output out there, out of these three webcams at least. So with that being said, let's move on. And for our final webcam, we have the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite. This webcam is also $159 plus tax, much like the Elgato Facecam Mark II. However, there are some major differences between the two. Besides the obvious differences in form factor, right? This is a much taller camera as opposed to this one, which is wider. We have the ability to do pan, tilt, and zoom via the controlling options on the Obsbot Control Center. And not only that, it has AI tracking incorporated in as well. So if you were to do this and set it up to do so, as you get up and move around in your shot, this camera will get up and follow you, just like so, like that, all right? It's capable of capturing at 1080p 60 and 4K 30. Let's check it out. All right, and now what we're looking at is the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite. Again, this is a $160 webcam, same exact price as the Elgato Facecam Mark II, but with some major differences. Number one, it's able to capture at 4K 30 FPS, and number two, this camera comes on its own pan tilt zoom gimbal. And what I mean by that is that if we open up the Obsbot Control Center, well, actually, it's called the Obsbot Center. I've been saying it wrong this whole video, so forgive me. If you open up the Obsbot Center, you're going to find that the view controlling system here is the exact same that we see with the Obsbot Me 2, all right? But the difference here is that when we move this around, we're not just moving a digital frame of the camera, we are literally moving the actual camera itself, because again, it's on its own PTZ gimbal. Also, we do have the ability to set up a couple of presets. We get 3 this time around, okay? So preset number 1 is just the normal shot that I've got set up, that I physically set up here on this mounting system here. Number 2, you know, we're just getting a little bit closer, becoming a little bit more friendly with one another. You know, maybe we're going to be, you know, sharing some very intimate details of our lives. Not that kind of intimate, but you know, like personal stuff. And number 3, once again, you're going to be able to tell that I've had a lot of coffee today, and I don't think you really want that. Besides, the image does just tend to look a little grainy. However, because I am actually capturing this right now at 4K 30, you're seeing it at 1080, it does not look as grainy and as noisy as it did on the Facecam Mark II, which was only able to capture at 1080p. This is one of the benefits of being able to select 4K 30 as an option when it comes to capturing, because you're able to zoom in and get that dramatic reaction without compromising the rest of the video quality. Besides that, we're also able to adjust different things like the exposure, the contrast, saturation, all those other settings we're able to manually adjust here. But the biggest difference here between this webcam and all the other 2 webcams is its AI tracking. We're going to go back to console. We're going to go back to the top. AI human tracking. Kind of an interesting way of putting that. That's okay. Right now it's set to standard, but I'm going to set it up to normal tracking and look at what happens. All right, I'm sitting here, camera's focused on me, right? But maybe I got to get up. So we'll go ahead and do that. And now it follows me, just like that. Maybe I'll go over here. Hi there. Maybe I go over here. You're going to see some of my monitor. No, because I have the overlay still on. Very nice. But if I go down, I saw it, dude. Go back up. You get the point. This is pretty cool for people who want to have very dynamic shots, also for streamers who are very animated, right? Maybe you get a game-winning goal in EAFC or the last kill to win in Warzone or whatever it is. You get really hyped, you get excited, you roll back from your chair, run around all over the damn place. The camera will follow you, and that adds a lot of like dynamics to the shot. Is that the right word to use here? I kind of just came up with all this on a spot. There's no script. Let's move on. So at the end of the day, all right, if I had to pick one of these 3 webcams, if somebody told me today, hey man, you pick one, we're taking the other 2. You can never have them again, and you cannot have any of the cameras that you have. You can't use this Canon M50. You got to pick one of these 3 webcams. Which one would you pick and why? I'd pick the Meet 2 by Obsbot. $130, 4K 30 FPS, 1080p, 60 FPS, standard dynamic range, high dynamic range, AI framing, which is basically what this does with the gimbal, but digitally. So it basically makes sure that you're always in the most optimal position in the frame when you move around in frame, okay? Again, it does what this does physically, digitally, all right? All of this for $30 less than these 2 right here. And these are both really solid webcams also, in my opinion. And honestly, it doesn't matter which one of these 3 you get. If you buy either one of these 3, you're going to be in great shape, because at the end of the day, all 3 of these cameras, let's see if I can do it without dropping this time. All 3 of these webcams present fantastic value for how much they cost, which is under $200. So get out there, get one of these cameras, like my video, comment down below if you think this was helpful, if you have a preference, which one did you like more, which one did you hate, am I stupid, do you think my hair looks dumb, are you anti-Manchester United? They almost won today, they should have, but it was a great game. That's besides the point. Until next time, be good to yourselves, be good to one another. Peace out.